The sun bathed the sleek patio in a warm glow as Malcolm Hayes reclined in his favorite poolside chair. The breeze rustled the leaves of the tall palm trees lining the edge of his property, their shadows dancing gently on the marble tiles. The water in the infinity pool shimmered like liquid glass, so still it looked untouched. Behind him, his modernist mansion stood silent and proud, a statement of the life he had built from nothing. In one hand, Malcolm held a hardcover biography of Frederick Douglass. In the other, a tall glass of lemonade, beads of condensation, rolling down its side. He had no meetings, no phone calls, no pressure. Just silence, sunlight, and solitude. He wore linen shorts and a loose, cream-colored t-shirt. On his wrist was a platinum watch, understated but unmistakably expensive. His phone sat face down on a small side table, screen off, notifications muted. He wasn't here to work. He was here to breathe, but the stillness of the afternoon didn't last. A slight sound, the buzz of the back gate, broke the silence. Malcolm glanced up, eyebrows furrowing slightly. The gate, which should have been locked, creaked open. Two figures stepped inside. Carol Pennington, with her carefully styled gray bob and floral blouse, clutched a tote bag and wore an expression that mixed concern with suspicion. Behind her was Greg Turner, taller, bald, in cargo shorts and a golf polo. Clutching his phone like it was a badge of authority. Malcolm didn't move. He didn't sit up. He didn't greet them. He waited. Excuse me? Carol called out, her voice artificially polite but edged with entitlement. Hi, sorry to bother you. Do you live here? He blinked once. Yes, Carol exchanged a glance with Greg. It's just, we weren't sure. You're new, aren't you? Malcolm tilted his head. I've lived here for 3 years. Greg stepped forward, clearly emboldened. Well, we just haven't seen you around. This is a quiet neighborhood. We like to know who's coming and going. I see, Malcolm said. He placed a bookmark in his book and slowly set it aside. And who exactly are you? Carol blinked. I live next door. And Greg's on the HOA board. We just thought it was odd, you know. Seeing someone unfamiliar, unfamiliar? Malcolm echoed. You mean me? Neither of them spoke. The air shifted, the breeze stilled. The sound of water gently lapping the pool edge was the only thing that moved. You're assuming I don't belong here, he said, voice calm. Because you've never seen me before? No, it's not like that, Carol said quickly. It's just, well, your car's not in the driveway, and I parked it in the garage, Malcolm cut in. Like I always do. Greg's hand tightened around his phone. We're just trying to keep the neighborhood safe. You don't need to get defensive. Malcolm stood up, slowly, not aggressively, but deliberately. He was tall, fit, poised. His presence alone demanded respect. You came into my yard, he said. Voyek 15 minutes later, the silence of the neighborhood was pierced by the distant sound of sirens. Malcolm didn't move from his spot, still standing tall with his phone recording. The lemonade now sat untouched on the table, ice half melted. From the gate, 2 patrol cars rolled up slowly and parked along the curb outside his property. Their lights flickered, but the sirens were off now, signaling a situation that appeared non-urgent but still suspicious in nature. Both officers stepped out, one older with graying hair, the other younger and visibly tense. Their body language suggested uncertainty. They were told a man was trespassing, but what they saw didn't match the typical scene. Malcolm stood calmly, phone still. In hand, camera pointed at the approaching officers. Afternoon, officers, he greeted, his tone polite but firm. The older cop raised a hand. Sir, we got a call from some neighbors. Mind if we ask a few questions? Sure, Malcolm replied. But before you do, am I being detained? The younger officer paused. No, sir, not at the moment. We just need to verify some information. Then I'll cooperate voluntarily. My name is Malcolm Hayes. I live here. He pulled out his wallet and handed over his driver's license. You can also check county records, properties under my name. The officer glanced at the ID. His eyes widened slightly as he read. The name, Malcolm Hayes, Wait Haystack? That's me, Malcolm replied, still recording. Greg and Carol stood behind the officers now, hovering by the gate. Greg's arms were folded, and he looked increasingly uncomfortable. Carol seemed hesitant, like she suddenly realized they might have overstepped. Asterisk, Sir, do you have any other proof of residence? The younger officer asked. Asterisk Malcolm turned, walked over to the side wall of the patio, and pointed to the security panel. Code access fingerprint scan. You want to check the camera footage too? Asterisk, he tapped his phone and pulled up a live feed. It showed Carol and Greg entering his property without permission and confronting him poolside. The timestamp was clear. Asterisk, the older officer looked over his shoulder and exhaled. All right, Mr. Hayes, everything checks out. Sorry to bother you, just had to respond. Asterisk, Greg stepped forward. You still have to understand, it's a tight-knit community. We weren't trying to be offensive. Asterisk, Malcolm turned to him. Weren't. You? Because from where I'm standing, you didn't greet me. You didn't introduce yourself. You called the cops and labeled me suspicious without even asking for my name? Asterisk, Carol spoke softly. We just didn't know. Asterisk, that's the point, Malcolm said sharply. You didn't know. And instead of seeking understanding, you jumped straight to fear. Asterisk, the older officer nodded respectfully. Again, Mr. Hayes, we apologize for the inconvenience. You're well within your rights to record this. Asterisk, Malcolm didn't stop the camera. Asterisk, Greg looked at the phone lens. Are you really recording all this? Asterisk, yes, Malcolm said plainly. For my protection. And maybe for yours too. Asterisk, the officers, now visibly trying to de-escalate, offered a final apology and returned to their squad cars. Malcolm stayed where he was, watching Greg and Carol linger awkwardly. Asterisk then. As they slowly turned to leave, he spoke again. Asterisk, you see that camera above the back gate? He asked, pointing upward. They looked. That one has audio. Everything. You said captured, stored, uploaded? Asterisk, Carol's lips parted slightly. You're not going to use that, are you? Asterisk, that depends, Malcolm said. What you do next will tell me everything. Asterisk, the next morning, Malcolm sat on his terrace with coffee in hand, a laptop in front of him. He scrolled through his security footage, clipped the relevant segments, and began writing a blog post. Asterisk, he titled it, When You're a Black CEO and Still Don't Belong in Your Own Backyard. Asterisk. Within hours of posting it on his company's media page, the traffic exploded, first a few hundred views, then thousands, then tens of thousands. The story was shared on Twitter, retweeted by influencers and journalists alike. People commented with shock, outrage, support, and familiarity. Asterisk, Malcolm hadn't revealed Greg or Carol's names. Not yet. But he detailed the experience fact by fact, line by line, so anyone who had ever experienced such subtle racism would see themselves in his story. He even embedded the video footage. Asterisk, it wasn't just a blog. It was a message. Asterisk, Greg, meanwhile, sat in his home scrolling through the post, face pale, hands shaking slightly. Carol called him in a panic. It's everywhere, Greg. We're being talked about online. People are asking if it was us. Asterisk, Greg didn't respond. He stared at the screen, the words echoing in his mind. It's not about the pool. It's about the assumption. The automatic doubt. The coded fear. Asterisk, Malcolm had turned the camera toward injustice, and the whole internet was now watching. E flat. Uninvited. Accuse me of being where I live. And now you want to talk about safety? Asterisk, Greg lifted his phone, thumb hovering. Look, let's just call the police and have them sort this out. Asterisk, Carol hesitated. Greg? Asterisk, no, if he really lives here, no problem, right? Asterisk, Malcolm didn't flinch. Go ahead. Asterisk, Greg didn't expect that. But he dialed anyway. Asterisk, yes, we have a situation, he said into the phone. There's a suspicious man by the pool at 814 Oak Ridge Drive, possibly trespassing. Asterisk, Malcolm crossed his arms. Make sure you tell them what I'm wearing, and that I'm reading. and that I had the nerve to have brown skin in a white zip code. Greg turned slightly away, murmuring to the dispatcher. Malcolm picked up his phone, tapped the camera app, and started recording. Asterisk, you're not the first, he said, almost to himself. But you just might be the last to make this mistake in my backyard. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, Malcolm's blog post had racked up over 500,000 views. Major media outlets were picking it up, first regional, then national. His inbox was flooded with interview requests from journalists, influencers, even TV hosts. His social media was on fire. Verified users were tagging him in reposts of the security footage. Civil rights organizations praised his poise. Commenters shared their own experiences, stories of being questioned in their own neighborhoods, harassed at the gym, followed in stores. Malcolm had struck a nerve deeper than the moment at his pool. He had held a mirror up to the quiet, coded racism many still lived with daily. Asterisk, his video clip, just 2 minutes long, was shared across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. It showed everything: Carol's hesitant entry, Greg's accusatory tone, the call to 911, Malcolm's calm, confident replies, the officer's shift in posture the moment he said, "Hayes, tech." It all played out like a scene from a movie, but it was real, and people were angry. The caption under the clip read, "When your net worth hits 8 figures but your skin still makes people nervous. I didn't call the cops. They did. I just recorded what it means to be black and successful in America." Asterisk, by morning, Malcolm was trending. His blog site crashed once from traffic. Within 48 hours, hashtags like hashtag backyard bias, hashtag while black, and hashtag Malcolm Hayes trended on social media. Public figures spoke up. CEOs issued statements about unconscious bias. Corporate HR departments reposted the clip as a teaching moment. Asterisk, but Malcolm didn't gloat. He didn't mock. He just watched the movement unfold, quietly sipping his coffee on the same patio where it all began. The pool water rippled gently in the breeze, still calm, still peaceful. Asterisk, but in the house next door, peace was gone. Asterisk, Greg was now the subject of whispers and texts across the neighborhood. Carol's inbox was filled with passive-aggressive messages from other HOA members. Someone had anonymously dropped off a printed copy of Malcolm's blog at their doorstep with the words, "This is what you did," scribbled in red ink across the front page. Asterisk, 3 days later, the HOA president called for an emergency meeting. At the community center, residents showed up in record numbers. Some came curious, others came angry. But everyone came aware. Asterisk, Malcolm arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in a sharp navy suit, no tie, laptop in hand. He nodded to familiar faces. The ones who had always said nothing, stayed quiet, pretended they didn't see. Now they couldn't avoid seeing. The room fell silent when he walked up to the front. He didn't yell, he didn't rant. He opened his laptop, connected it to the projector, and played the video clip. The room watched in uncomfortable silence. Then he turned to face them. Asterisk, my name is Malcolm Hayes. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because this wasn't just about me. It was about what this neighborhood really thinks of people who don't fit a certain mold even when they've done everything right. He paused. I built a company that employs hundreds of people. I donate to local schools. I support community centers. I pay taxes just like you. And yet 2 of your board members decided I didn't belong because I was alone, black, and near water. Someone near the back let out a quiet gasp. I could have sued. I still might. But what I want first is acknowledgement. I want this HOA to implement bias training. I want written apologies. And I want Greg and Carol off the board today. Asterisk, the room erupted into murmurs. Greg shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Carol was already in tears. Asterisk, the HOA president stood. Effective immediately, Greg Turner and Carol Pennington have submitted their resignations. Asterisk, no applause. Just silence. Asterisk, Malcolm nodded once. Then my job is done. Asterisk, he walked out, slow and deliberate. No smugness, no swagger, just quiet. Dignity. The kind that speaks louder than anger ever could. Asterisk, back at his home, he changed out of his suit, returned to his patio, and lowered himself into the lounge chair by the pool. The water glowed under the soft lighting, peaceful once again. This time, no interruptions, no suspicions, just the quiet, the calm and the full weight of justice having done its work.